Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another episode of Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome for the first time Nandor Fox Shaffer. Nandor, welcome. I am intrigued by your new Kickstarter that you're underway with, and it's called Manchild. And as you describe it, it's a look at the Silver Age, a look at comic fandom, and also a tribute to the life of Stan Lee. So, welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, and I can't wait to talk about Manchild and what I've been working on the past couple years. It's I've been developing this for about 2 years now, so it's finally time to talk about it, and I'm really excited to do that.
Excellent, man. And we'll also talk. I see you've got your book up there, Seasons, which I know is a previous campaign of yours. But let's
Yeah.
let's get into Manchild first. Talk about it beyond the description that I just gave. Tell us a bit about Manchild. Actually, I can even bring up the Kickstarter and play your video, but I'd like to hear you describe it first.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's everything you hinted at there, and so much more. It all began soon after Stan Lee passed away. I never got to meet him. I always wanted to, and I never got to. And that was one of those things on your bucket list as a comic book fan. You're like, surely I'll be able to meet Stan or at least see him or something like even brush past him maybe at a con, like that would just be cool. And there was actually this convention that I had a booth at a couple of years ago, and it was in 2018, the year that Stan Lee passed away, and it was in February of that year. And he was supposed to be there to do signings and to make an appearance, but he was sick, and so he wasn't able to make it. So I never. That was like one more thing that I was so close to seeing him, but I never got to see him. So after he passed away, it really struck me, and it really kind of put me in this state of just wanting to rediscover who he was, and also just to do more research about him, because I've grown up reading his comics and loving his characters, and the characters that he co-created with Kirby and Ditko and all those great artists, and but I never knew that much about him, and I wanted to learn more about him. So I read about 3 or 4 biographies on his life and on Marvel Comics in general, and just the origin of Marvel and Timely and Atlas, and and looking at the trajectory of that company and what Stan brought to the table, and the more I looked into his life, and the more that I researched about the man he was, and the things that he feared, and kind of the imposter syndrome that he went through, and the insecurity of being a comic book writer in the early stages of his career, the more he fascinated me as a person, because I could relate to that. I could really relate to that person that's like, as an indie creator, you're always asking yourself, what am I doing? Like, is this actually something that I want to keep pursuing? Is this a safe route? Is this too risky? I only write comic books, they're not that whatever. And so I really related to that part of his life. And so, yeah, the more I looked into him, the more that I wanted to give back, because he'd given me so much. And I keep saying this, and I still really believe this, that a world without Stan Lee is a lesser world. And so I wanted to just do something for him, do something in his spirit. And that's really where the idea for Manchild came. And then it blossomed into something completely, more. And that was something really exciting for me as a creator, because I never wanted to do a superhero book, not like a traditional style superhero book. And so when I was like, okay, what could I bring to the table? What could I do? And I kind of challenged myself as a writer, and then these pieces started to fall together. And I didn't just want to tell a superhero story, so I wanted to pursue this idea of telling 2 stories simultaneously, and that's what Manchild is. So you're going to be uh, absorbed in this Silver Age inspired superhero universe with the captivating Monarch Crier and his arch villain, Professor Pilgrim. Yeah, there he is right there, uh, so that's the Monarch Crier there and Professor Pilgrim. And then on the bottom there, you see the Uncle Chester's comic shop, and there's Rufus and his friends there, and um, that's the other half of the story of Manchild, where you follow Rufus and his friends, and they're these super, just knee deep in comic book culture, and love talking about comics, and they hang out, and they're just like, our friend groups as comic book fans. And so you're going to be reading these two stories simultaneously as you go through the series, and how they connect is a mystery for the reader to discover of why you're reading these two stories at the same time.
Well, the art is gorgeous, and that's certainly, I mean, again, that's the heavy lifting of any comic book is how it looks.
Yeah,
So
completely.
congratulations on hooking up with a terrific artist. Tell me about your artist.
Yeah, so the artist for Manchild is his name's Jay Mazar, and he does pencils, inks, and colors. He does it all. He's a one-man army in the art department, and he is terrific. I was it was really crucial for this book. I'm a very picky person when it comes to who I like to work with, and the artists I like to work with. And this was one of the hardest hunts. I always call myself an artist hunter, like that I've gone on, where I'm looking for these people, because I knew I wanted to do something with two stories, and it's like, okay, should I have one artist for one story and one
Sure.
artist for the other, or how do I want to approach this? But I really like keeping my creative team as close knit and as small as possible, because that way you don't have to keep up with so many different people. And so I thought, what if I could find the right guy that could uh, give you that sense of that classic wonder and imagination that you get when you look at old classic, Stan and Kirby books, and then also something that is still fresh for modern readers, so that they look at it and they still kind of feel like, oh, this is a cool bridge between the classic and the modern. And so I was looking for people that had the similar style of some of my favorite artists, like Greg Smallwood, or Chris Somney, or Steve Rude, Darwin Cook, people like that could kind of give you that classic sense, but also still be really palatable for modern audiences. So yeah, and that was Jay Mazar, and I found him through a artist forum, and I hit him up, and he was actually sort of hesitant to work on it, because he had done more crime thriller, like noir type of stuff.
Okay.
And so he was like, why do you want to kind of like pick me, like, for this superhero book? But he has some really great um superhero like character sketches on his website, and I just saw some really awesome stuff, and I believed that he could do it. I was like, I know you're the guy. Like, there's just no one else that I've seen that could do it like you could do it. And so we finally agreed. Okay, we were like, okay, let's do this. Let's try this out. And yeah, it's history ever since. It's been a long process of collaborating together. We did the character designs together. We've done a lot of the heavy lifting together. So it's been a really great collaborative process.
That sounds great, man. And I love the mix of classic people like Steve Rude and Darwin Cook, and as you mentioned,
Yeah.
the modern guys like Smallwood and Somney, two buddies of mine. So that's great to hear. And I've
Yeah.
been fortunate enough to cross paths with Darwin and Steve in my time doing Word
Mm.
Balloon as well. No, I think that's great. I've got your Kickstarter site basically ready. Let me share
Yeah,
for a
sure.
second here, and we can like look at the site itself. And there we go. So yeah, I mean, all right, you got just under 2 weeks to go, and
That's right.
you're just a little over halfway there, which is wonderful.
Yeah, we're kind of on the way there. We're halfway on uh, closing the campaign, and halfway on funding it. So it's kind of right in that sweet spot.
Excellent. And again, man, you got some great people to help you out with variant covers. And again,
Yeah,
more of
yeah.
my buddies. Well, and truly, I mean, we're not on his cover yet, but right there. I mean, I like Tom Riley, and I don't know Welby. Tell
Yeah.
me about Welby.
Welby, so he worked with Jim Kruger on Marvel's X with Jim Kruger and Alex Ross. So like
Oh,
the
sure.
prequel series. Yeah, yeah. So he did that, and he also worked with Jim Kruger on their independent book they did before that called The No Ones under Cave Pictures Publishing.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'm a massive Jim Kruger fan. I loved his Earth X trilogy. I love
Oh, yeah.
Justice and just everything he's done. I think he's I wish he would do more. I love his writing
I
so
could not
much.
agree more. I'm a big
Yeah.
Drew Kruger fan as well. I mostly know him through, like you said, the Earth X projects that he's done with
Hmm.
Alex Ross over the years. But a hell of a
Yeah.
writer, absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I loved Welby's style so much from especially the Marvel's X books and I just thought more people need to see his work because it was just so amazing and so striking and also again a perfect kind of bridge between the classic and the modern. And so I reached out to him because I thought, oh, he'd be perfect for this. And he was the first artist I reached out to. And immediately after I told him about the project, he responded positively, and he was like, "Yeah, this sounds awesome. I'd love to do a
Wonderful.
cover for this book." So yeah, I feel so blessed and this is a dream come true to work with these artists because I've never worked with artists of this caliber before. So it's just amazing.
And there's Tom Riley right next to him, and another great kind of
Yeah,
classic pose for these guys. There's and forgive me, your other protagonist right there in the
yeah,
window.
Rufus. Yeah,
There
yeah.
he is. Yeah. So he and I shop at the same big and tall shops. Sadly, right now, but that's all right. I know. As I always like to say, when we go to Comic Cons, I'm a medium. If you compare everybody else at the show, it's a lot of us big
Yeah,
guys rocking
yeah.
around and stuff, and it's like, okay, I don't feel as bad. I'm being out here like this. It's all right. I'm not alone. It's okay. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, totally, totally, and that's so funny that's so funny you say that because, really, the way Rufus looks and his whole personality is really inspired by people that I've seen at conventions and things that I've seen where you're just like, "Wow, you're more into this stuff than I am, and I thought I was into this stuff," you know? Like, I thought I was a fan. I thought I went to the comic book shop, like way too much. But no, you actually go like way too much. So,
I can only
so like,
imagine. Absolutely, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like he's that guy that you think like should be working at the shop, but he's not, and you're just like, why are you here all the time?
Yeah, I know, man, and truly that two things. One, absolutely, and it's a shame that these last few months and a half, year and a half with COVID and everything has kind of
Yeah,
put a crimp on that, and it looks like we're kind of almost on the verge for another, if not full lockdown, certainly a lot of
right.
restrictions. Um,
Yeah.
but also, and I always say this, man, and again, as somebody my age, it's such a shame that there aren't more hangout stores. And it's so funny because
Hmm.
that, as I'm sure you know, that's the whole concept of Starbucks is being, as they call it, a third base. That home is
Yeah.
base one and work is base two, but third base is where you can kind of hang out. And man, I'll tell you, growing up where we had great record stores and bookstores and
Yeah.
so many other options for kids to hang out. I mean, even literally, the convenience stores and 7-Elevens and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
the comic shop is one of those last bastions of places that you can hang out and build community and see those regulars and talk
Yeah.
about what you're reading and everything. And that's one of the best things about fandom. And it's really been a shame that COVID has kind of put a crimp on that this last year and a half.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I've met some of my best friends at the comic book shop, and it's like you can just hit it off because you guys are there for the same reason, and maybe you've never met each other, but like someone says something and you're like, oh, I'm gonna pitch in here and talk about this too, and all of a sudden you just make friends, and you have a fun time, and you're able to connect, and then you're hanging out together, and it's just awesome. That's the beauty of being a comic book fan.
Amen. Absolutely. Two more variant covers we're looking at. On the left, one of my buddies, Tony Harris.
Yeah.
He's quite the character, to say the least. But I'm glad you were able to nail him down to do a beautiful kind of romantic cover there. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he was yeah, I couldn't believe it was one of those, oh wow moments where you're like, "Oh, this guy's not gonna he's not gonna be up for this, or he's not gonna want to do this, but I was like, I just gotta try because I love, I love his work so much, and it doesn't hurt to try at all. And I knew I wanted, with all these variant covers, I knew I wanted each one to have a different style and feel, and kind of represent um a different heart of the story, and a different part of the story that is really going to be representative of the entire series. And I knew I wanted a romantic cover because the romance between the Monarch Crier and his love interest Joanne is a big part of the story, and also it's very much inspired by the love that Stan Lee had with his wife Joan. And so that was just something I needed to do. And I was thinking about, oh, who could nail this, and Tony Harris just went bing bing bing. I was like, yeah, like him, he'd be perfect. And beautiful work. And I have the original art too, so
Wow.
that's even, yeah, it's incredible. It's an incredible piece.
Is that going to be one of the rewards if someone pledges a lot? Are you
I'm keeping that one. I'll
I
just say
don't, dude, I don't blame you at
that.
all. Absolutely, man. My
Yeah.
God, that's terrific, and I'm so glad. I mean, how'd you hit up Tony?
Yeah, it was just had to be there at the right place at the right time. I remember when it was early last year. I was thinking about variant covers for this book because this is the first time I've done variant covers for one of my projects. And so um it was a process for me to kind of figure out, okay, how do I reach out to people that I really, really admire, and artists that I really just absolutely adore their work. And um, I was on Instagram, and then all of a sudden I see Tony Harris. He puts up commissions open, like it was like the first post I saw that day. And I just thought, oh crap, and I
Sure.
messaged him right away, and he responded right away, and I was like right at the top of his commission list. So he was able to get me in there, and I was just like, oh sweet, like, whoa, this is awesome. So yeah, it was just a matter of his commission list opened up, and um I was just like, all right, are we actually doing this? Oh cool, we're doing this, and here we go. So it was just a matter of getting him at the right time.
Did the guys color it themselves, or did you have your guy color these variants?
They colored, yeah, all of them colored the pieces themselves. The
Wonderful.
Nick Pitara piece
Yeah, the one on the
was
right. Yeah.
colored. Yeah, that one was colored by Mike Garland, and
Okay.
they've been working on Leviathan with John Layman right now for Image. So, and Mike Garland's done a lot of Image books too. But yeah, all the others they did it themselves.
Very cool. Johnny's one of my guys as well. That's
Yeah,
man. That's truly, again. You'll forgive me, but you mentioned these names. Tony's certainly among them as well. That I miss seeing these guys at shows. I was lucky. I went
yeah.
about 3 weeks ago to Terrificon in Connecticut, and
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. Have you had a chance as things eased up to do any shows in this short little window of spring and summer that we had?
I did do a local show here. I'm in Missouri, and we
Okay.
did one here. And it was great. There weren't any really big names. I didn't really get to meet anyone that I really would have loved to meet, but
Sure.
it was I hadn't been to one in, like, a year or two. So it
Yeah.
was really exciting just to go and go to do one. So but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time doing it.
That's awesome, man. No, again, these variants are terrific, and there's a nice big shot of well-being and everything. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Here, and I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
let's look at these. I mean, there you go. These are even bigger. So, God, unbelievable. Terrific stuff. Again,
Yeah.
that's me. That looks like me on the can. COVID letting my hair grow long and everything. So there's
That's
Tony's.
right.
That's beautiful. Jesus. And
Oh,
God,
yeah.
I miss Tony on a regular book, and I don't know what he's working on, but I'm glad he had time to do this, and it's a hell of a cover, and I don't blame you for hanging on to it. I mean, it's just so
Yeah,
lyrically, romantic and everything, and there we go,
definitely.
and there's Pataras. That's awesome, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
These are great.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, there's Rufus, and there's Monarch Crier, one of your main characters there. And
Yeah.
Professor Pilgrim, I'm trying to figure out who he looks like. Who was the inspiration for? I mean, I would imagine that Monarch Crier's got some Spider-Man in him, obviously.
Yeah, Monarch Crier was this kind of growing up, I actually really gravitated towards the scientist type characters like Reed Richards and Hank Pym and Bruce Banner. Like I just found them
Sure.
really, really fascinating growing up, and even more so than like a Peter Parker. For some reason, I don't know, I just really liked the scientist guys. And so um that was a big inspiration for Monarch Crier, and his or George Jeffrey is his real name in the real world. But for his costume design, I wanted to do something kind of, again, it was really this struggle and this challenge of how can I how can we make a costume that not only is something that's really visually striking for today's audience, but also that you could probably, put him in this, this whole cast of Marvel classic characters, and like you could insert him into there and like he would fit. That was like the biggest challenge about his costume and what we wanted to do. So I took, I was looking at just, the classic Kirby designs, and I was looking at, you know, Ant-Man and Black Bolt and characters like that were just really out there, but for some reason you just gravitate towards them. They just look so cool. And so that's where kind of that whole idea of going with an insect type character, and I really love the symbolism behind the butterfly, and then the monarch butterfly is just one of my favorite insects, and also just an iconic, creature in itself. But yeah, it was just a matter of trying to, and then the eyes were definitely inspired by more of a Spider-Man type look there.
Sure.
But yeah, and he has this voice amplification device that's around his neck and his like mouthpiece, and that helps him to emit, like a Black Bolt sonic scream, or Banshee scream, a Banshee cry. So the Monarch Crier, and that's where his name comes from.
Cool.
Yeah, Professor Pilgrim. I really loved. I really wanted to have a villain that when you looked at him and you saw him, you got this sense of like a Doctor Doom or a Red Skull, just that really menacing and sort of mysterious type of figure, and that's where he comes from. And I had to do the salt and pepper look for just for classic sake of, the Nick Furies and the Reed Richards out there, and I just thought that's such a nice touch, and instantly makes you think of the Silver Age and those characters.
Oh yeah, and even Jonah Jameson and everything in terms of being an
Yeah, yeah,
antagonist to Spider-Man. No, absolutely, man. And also it's funny because you're tapping into what then was in the Silver Age. The current zeitgeist, and the Cold War, and
hmm,
all the sci-fi and monster movies that were coming out about the period, and science was a
right,
big part of that, and science gone wrong, both in the case of heroes and villains, and how they were
yeah,
tapping
yeah.
into stuff like that. So I can appreciate that. For the Stan Lee story, um so you really conceived of this, and the biographies you read, that was before like the Andrew Reisman book came out, isn't it? In your case.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah. I read. I know one was by Bob Batchelor. And I read that one, and then I read Marvel Comics: The Untold Story.
Sure.
Um,
Les
and
Daniels, right? Or no, that
yeah,
was
or
No, it was not Blake. It was but I know the book. Shame on us for not remembering
Yeah.
it. If you remember, go for it. Who
Right. Yeah. No. It's been a while, but I wrote down just a whole notebook's worth of notes and quotes and things that really interest me. And so that's what makes what for people that know the history of Stanley or know more about his life in Marvel Comics, as you read the story, especially in the Silver Age story, you'll see little Easter eggs and little things that are hinted at and that kind of make you, whether it's the clothes they're wearing or some of the lines of dialogue or things they say. There are things that are taken from the mouth of Stanley or these classic creators that are given voice through these characters. So there's a lot of hints and a lot of little winks at uh, these creators in that time.
That's awesome, man. No, again, I think the Marvel bullpen, both from the fiction or the marketing of it, and then the reality, I think is a great area to mine. In
Hmm.
fact, as I'm sure you know, Howard Chaykin is doing that right now in his Hey Kids comics series as
Yeah,
well. And I
he
mean, and
is.
there's room for lots of interpretations of the era and stuff. So that's cool. It's one of the things that intrigued me about your project with Manchow. How many issues are you planning on with this?
Yeah, so it's going to be a six-issue miniseries, and I'm actually writing the final issue right now. So if anyone's wondering, like, wait, does he actually know where this is going or what he wants to do with it? And I completely do. It's been one of the most exciting things that I've been able to write and put down, and uh, it's been an exploration of themes and things that didn't even account for when I started writing it. So, it really did start out as a tribute piece, and then it just became something completely more on a commentary scale on just the trajectory of the medium and how heroes have changed over the years, and just looking at comics as a whole and seeing just how much things have how they've changed, and for the better and sometimes for the worse, just looking at the history. And so it's been just such a like I've been rediscovering why I love comics as I've been writing this. So it's been a really kind of renewal process of like, whoa, like this is why I love this stuff. This is awesome. And so I'm just like digging deeper and deeper into it. It's given me an appreciation. I was rereading a lot of the classic books from Stan and Kirby and Ditko, and I was just like, wow, these are amazing. These are so imaginative. There's so much there to appreciate, and there's so much, style and excitement and bravado and just like hype and all that stuff. And so it just makes me feel like a kid again, and that's something that I really want this series to make people feel too.
That's great, man. And again, I think evoking that period on the dual track of what the fan was going through, and then also, what was happening in the funny papers and everything, and
Yeah.
the fiction of the period as well. No, I think that's great. That's excellent to hear. So you've got seasons set up there, and I'm gonna solo and zoom in on you there. You could
Okay.
talk a little bit
Yeah.
about seasons for a second.
Yeah, for sure. So seasons over here. This is volume one, and this is the first graphic novel, the first comic I did. I started writing it right out of high school, and I was actually going to college for creative writing. And the more that I was working on it, the more that I was thinking about the series, the more I was like, I just got to do this. So I stopped going to college. I did the safe thing, the thing that your parents want you to do, which is to quit going to school. And I started writing seasons, and I found my artist for it, and we started putting out as a web comic. The artist is Anthony Gonzalez Clark, and it's just us two. We do everything, and it's been a process of about 4 or 5 years. We put out the first two volumes, and we started putting it online for free to read in 2016. So I've been writing comics and doing this for about 5 years now, And they're both hardcovers. They're both over 100 pages,
Wow.
and it's a it's going to be of course it's called Seasons, and it's going to be a 4-volume graphic novel series. So we got spring, summer, fall, and winter, and so we still got fall and winter to come out. And it's a supernatural, grounded, very grounded superhero type of story that follows this young man through 1 year of his life. And with each passing season, his abilities change.
Hmm.
And uh, the characters change with each book, that he has to, face the people that he encounters. But it's very much a character driven story that is very introspective on trying to find meaning in this character's life, and him starting out as this really blank slate. But then the more that you discover about him, the more you discover about the baggage and the trauma that he's kind of repressed all these years, and that starts to kind of implode within on himself, and then he's just thrust into this new world of discovering what it means to what his place is in the world. So it's a really ambitious series that is there's a lot going on there, and like each volume definitely has a different flavor to it. And like volume 1 is more of a dark horror supernatural feel, and then volume 2 is much more of a uh, blockbuster type of superhero action story. And then fall and winter will be kind of completely different, but still with the same character. And then I actually in between volumes 1 and 2 of Seasons, I did this book called Lifeline. And Lifeline is very much a stripped down drama that tells this life story from a young boy to an elderly man. And I worked with 7 different artists from all around the world on it. And each chapter is drawn by a different artist. And each chapter is told from the perspective of a different character. So someone that's close to this person. So you're learning about this guy through the eyes of different people. So it's very much a piece about um, ending up someplace that you didn't think that you would end up, and kind of looking back on your life and the people that were important to you through it. So um, it's very personal. It's dedicated to my dad, and it's one of my favorite things that I've written. It's also very much, if you, a lot of people read it and it reminded them of a Jeff Lemire book.
Sure.
So like if you like that kind of stuff, then you'll like Lifeline.
That's great to hear, man. I like your setup of your background there, that you've extended the smoke coming out of the
Yeah.
Lifeline cover. That's good. That's good, man. That's very strategic. I like that. That's fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I love Jeff Lemire. He's again a nice friend, and I'm so happy for him. And yeah, man, again, an interesting, different voice in terms of
Yeah.
his introspection and the personal touch that he puts in a lot of his books. Always
Yeah.
makes them different and very human, I think, as
Hmm.
well. So very cool. So for crowdfunding, which is always, well, let's start first with the webcomic itself for
Yeah.
Seasons. Um, Gathering the audience and stuff. I mean, that's kind of, I mean, it's no different than what I've been doing with my podcast in terms of putting it
Yeah.
out there. And it's, I always say, gathering your audience. It's like Johnny Appleseed. It's one listener at a time. I would imagine it's one viewer at a time for your webcomic with Seasons.
Yeah, it really started out as that, and it was we were posting like 2 pages a week, and we just kept doing that on a consistent basis. And then the closer we got to finishing volume 1, we were ready to try to do, a Kickstarter for it
Yeah.
to fund the first book. And it went well. We raised over, for my first Kickstarter, it was really exciting because we raised over $6,500, and I was just like, well, this is awesome, and
Sure.
a lot of people were coming back for it. And then we started posting volume 2 for free online, and getting all that, and numbers kept going up, readership kept going up too. So it really worked. A lot of people, asked me, like, why would you put that out for free? And it's like, well, how else are you going to get eyes on it? I mean, you're a
Yeah.
struggling creator. It's like you got to do all you can to try to get people to look at what you're reading, and it's a lot harder, for a writer to get themselves kind of noticed in the industry, just because you look at the art and you can kind of tell, like, oh, is there potential here? But with a writer, you have to actually sit down and take time to listen to their voice, and read what they're doing. So um for me, it was a strategic move in that sense of being like, here I am, you can read me for free and you can see if you like, what I have to offer. But yeah, it's not a lot of people are doing that anymore. And I totally get it, but I think, for people that are just, starting out, I think it's a great way to get eyes on what you're doing, because hey, like, it's not going to hurt you.
How are you sharing the awareness, to make people come in and check your stuff out? Where did you
Hmm.
go? Because again, you're right. I mean, it's a crowded market, and it only gets more
Yeah.
crowded, and that's a good and bad thing. I mean, I think it's great,
Hmm.
and I think people don't have to work or wait for that opportunity to come from a publisher, that they could just go out and do it. And
Yeah.
thankfully, you found a partner that you felt comfortable with, that could convey your ideas. But then, yeah, attracting that audience and getting them to come to read it every week. Where did you go to promote?
Yeah, I mean, I just did a lot of promoting on different forum sites and different, art forum sites, and where people are kind of looking for that kind of stuff, and tried to find like-minded people. I'd go to local comic shops here in my area and give them, flyers, and be like, "Hey, can you put this in, a comic for people?" Like, if a customer comes in, maybe
Oh,
slip this in
sure,
their bag,
that's a great
for me.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah, and just kind of, word of mouth within my community, and then, just emailing different people, different creators, letting them know about my stuff, and hoping they'll share it. So and then doing cons, of course,
oh yeah,
and growing awareness that way. But yeah, it's definitely I still feel like there's so much more potential of growth, for the series and what we're doing. So it's definitely it's a marathon, and
sure it is.
and you just got to keep the pace up as much as possible. And that's been one of the hardest things to swallow for me, because when I started out, and because the book looks great, it's like, it's visually appealing, and I know it catches people's attention. But the more that yeah, and I'll show it. I'll just kind of show it off here.
Sure, man.
But
Yeah, no,
um
those are great covers. Absolutely.
yeah. And
There
yeah,
you
the
go.
more, the more that we showed it off, the more people are
Yeah, show the
discovering
interior.
it. Yeah. Let's
That's
see.
great, man. I'm a
Yeah.
big I'm a big grayscale fan as well. I mean, I just think it's so it really sets mood in a way that color can't. So I can
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. And what's really cool about Seasons and what we're doing with it is, so with each book, this is really cool. I don't know if I've seen a series do this. I'm sure there's been something like it, but with each book, so the first book is completely black and white, but then with volume 2, we sprinkle in a little color, and with each storyline, we're going to add more and more color,
Oh,
and
great.
it's to convey the sense of enriching the character's life as he's progressing, like,
Sure.
towards the better version of himself. So it's this really cool visual dynamic that
It's a
we've been
great
playing
idea.
around with. And so yeah, that's something about the series that I know intrigues a lot of people when they look at it. But yeah, it's just a matter for me of just trying to be consistent with people. And I started a YouTube channel this year, and I've been trying to be more transparent with my process and things I'm working on, and answer people's questions and all that kind of stuff. So trying to be as open as possible, I think, is one of the best things you can do, as someone trying to break in the industry. Really, my plan, I'll just say this real quick, is like, make as many books on my own as possible, and then go to some cons and bring them, to different editors and people, and just be like, here, what chances do I have? How are these, and just kind of let these speak for me as my resume.
Well done, man, because exactly that is the key. Um, I've had both on Word Balloon Live and even privately, people ask and say, should I be making my own books first, or should I really
Hmm.
try to get to the big two? And in fact, man, I feel so bad for the person that asked when I had Tom King on in the last month. And Tom really, and I think in a very encouraging way, gave
Hmm.
what I would call a 1% story in terms
Yeah.
of how Clayman broke in. I don't know if you saw it, and if you didn't, it's no big
Yeah,
deal.
no, I love that interview. That was a great one.
Well, that's
Yeah.
right. I mean, honestly, I grumpy old man. I'm like, all right, that's the 1% version. I go, you really got to look at this as, like you said, a marathon, and that at the very least, make your own books first. Don't
Yeah.
don't hope for that golden ticket moment that
Hmm.
luckily Clayman had specifically in his attempts to try and break in. It's like,
Yeah.
no, because even God, I have so many friends that have succeeded with their own books. God, look at like a guy like Sal Abenati, who is truly one of
Mm.
my best friends in comics, and was told a long time ago, you're never going to make it in DC and Marvel. They're not going to like your art style. Fine. And he's gone on and made his own books. And there's a library of Sal Abenati books and also a following for his kind of art. And it's
Yeah.
very impressionistic. It's very distinct. But and I do the same thing with Word Balloon. I mean, God, I've been knocking my head against the wall of traditional broadcasting for 30 years, and for the most part was gainfully employed. But it's like Word Balloon's my own thing, and
Yeah.
if I never get another broadcast job, I can point to 16 years of Word Balloon and all the interesting conversations and opportunities that the podcast has brought me. And that's why I
Yeah.
really do feel a kinship with everyone that's making their own comics and stuff. And it's like, hey, we're all creating content in our own way. So no,
Yeah.
you're doing it the right way. What is your YouTube channel called?
It's called Foxhole Comics. It's my brand, or my imprint for my books. So yeah, and I do do streaming with my artists, and like, show off work, and then also uh I really try to have it as much writer base as possible. So I look at my favorite books. I have this series called The Art of Writing Comics, and I just
Hmm.
flip through my favorite stories and talk about um what I think, the writer and the artist were doing with this scene, why it strikes me, how I would approach it as a writer in my own, scripts and stuff. So I like to look at things in that way, and that might help other writers to look at comics in a more analytical way than maybe they do before.
That sounds great, man. Well, honestly, I wish you luck with the next 2 weeks.
Thank
Um,
you.
and yeah, 100%, dude. And I'm gonna once again show off some of these incredible covers that you've got for Manchild. Here, let's do that again. Is it? Am I working there? Hold on. I know, old man. My
No,
VCR
you're
is
good.
my VCR is blinking 12 as we speak. Hold on, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, I love I actually, I'm one of the few people my age that grew up with VCRs. My dad's in his late 60s, so he really
okay.
helped to inform my brother and I on all that stuff. So it was
Would
a lot of fun.
was he a comic reader himself? Your father?
He was was big into it as a kid, and really stopped, and of course, the thing is, a lot of people do in their college years, and never really go back to it, but then they start to relive it, or rediscover it with their kids, and that's something he did with us. And he would show us the George Reeves Superman,
Sure, the TV show.
and yeah, the TV show, and we watched the animated show and the Batman, the '66,
Sure, Adam
Batman
West.
show, and
Yep.
yeah, so like we really did grow up in this. It was really awesome because my dad had so much history to share with us, pop culture history, and so that was something that was really ingrained on myself and made us appreciate the classics and all that kind of stuff.
No, I hear you, man. I had the same experience with my father. I was just retelling a friend about being on vacation and seeing the treasury-sized Shazam with the white
Oh
cover,
yeah.
and my dad was like, "Hey, Captain Marvel! I used to read Captain Marvel. Do you want this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It was only $1, and I'm like, and I was really excited because it was just this
Yeah.
big giant superhero with a teenage persona on the in front of him, and I'm like, I hadn't read Captain Marvel before, and it was such an exciting thing, and it was even cooler knowing that my father's like, yeah, I used to read Captain Marvel, and he would call Submariner. And I understood
Oh
because,
yeah.
well, World War II, submarines, of course. Why wouldn't you call them Submariner? So,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And, it was adorable. And no, you can see the smile on my face. And I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like bonding with
Oh
your dad.
yeah. Yeah, my dad's the one that introduced us to, our comic shop. I remember the first time
That's
that he
great.
brought us. Yeah, I remember the first time he brought us to the comic book store. I remember it pretty vividly. It was like a really rainy day, and it was all kind of dark and spooky outside. But he brought us to the comic shop, and we were just my brother and I were just in awe because our local shop has all of these Bowen statues and all of these classic superhero statues
Sure.
all over the place, and we're just these little kids looking up, going, "Oh my gosh!" Like
Absolutely, man.
just feel like you're absorbed in this complete other world, and it was so colorful in there, juxtaposed against how gloomy it was outside. So it was just one of the best memories that I've had for sure.
That's excellent, man. No, and you're right about that. And the right comic store, as they display things, much like your own setup that you've got there
Hmm.
behind you. Here, I'll even zoom in again. Boom! Look at that. So
Yeah.
you walk into Nandor's room and everything. It's like I would be intrigued by what I see, and
Hmm.
absolutely, man. No, that's the great thing about the stores, and they are museums in their own way. If they have the
Yeah.
statues and the other paraphernalia as much as they do the books, and it's a four colored world that is very enticing, and you get kids at the right age, and they're going to get sucked in and want to experience it as much as they can. So I
Yeah.
can't blame you. And truly, Manchild looks like a great series. Good luck with the next 2 weeks. And yeah, congratulations. And truly, congratulations on this being, your third series. That's wonderful because no matter what
Yeah.
happens, I think these are absolutely accomplishments that you can be proud of, that they are realized, and you did it yourself, man, and you didn't wait for the opportunity. It's something that you had to do, and you
Yeah.
got it done. So congratulations on where you are in your career now, and it seems like you've got the right trajectory to evolve and move ahead.
Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. And I'm always hoping. I'm like, yeah, I hope I'm doing the right thing. But that's the thing. You just got to keep pressing on and believing in, hopefully what you're doing is correct. And that's what's so great about doing these books and doing crowdfunding is you really get that sense of validation from other people that go, I want what you're making. Like I absolutely know nothing about you, but what you're making is something really interesting and something I want. And for a creator to hear that and to get that from strangers, complete strangers, it makes you feel like you are on the right track and that you're doing something really important.
I met a word balloon fan on Sunday. I was at Wrigley Field where the Cubs play, and there was
Mm.
a great concert going on. It was Green Day, Weezer, and Fallout
Oh,
Boy.
nice.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Woo.
great, man. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because again, what the hell am I doing in my mid-50s day? And it's like, yeah, I don't know how to break it to you, but Fallout Boy, or rather, Green Day, they've been around for 30 years. So I was in my 20s when they
Yeah.
broke through, and then the
Yeah. I
same thing with
know.
Weezer
No.
for that matter too. So no, it's like I'm like, no, this is my era. No, sorry, but
Yeah.
that said, it was great, and truly, just randomly being in the concession line, a word balloon listener came up and said, "God, I love what you do, and thank you so much."
Wow.
And it was so really the last thing I expected. I mean, I'm just coming to hear some of my favorite bands play, and
Yeah.
no, so I again I share that feeling, and I know what it means to have someone acknowledge what you're doing and in a positive way and say, God, keep going. I really love what you do. So
Yeah.
congratulations on getting that feeling as well, man. And nobody can take that away from you. And like I said, Manchild looks amazing, and I recommend it to people to support the Kickstarter. Here's a great, again, shot of some of the storytelling you're going to find in Manchild. And it's drawn beautifully, and it's going to be a great series from Nandor Fox Shaffer, who joins us today. So thanks for hanging out, man, and thanks for talking to me today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Anytime. I'd love to be back.
No problem. Well, everybody watching, thank you for watching. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to Rob Salkowitz, a great market analyst. He writes for Milton Grief's ICV2 every week, and he also writes for Forbes.com, and he has a great book that he wrote about the comic market in general and Comic-Con. And God, it's been a busy COVID year in terms of all the different changes, and he's going to give us his point of view of the big Substack announcements that we got last week, and then the creators and stuff, and NFTs and a few of the other things that have popped up in the last year and a half. Like I said, as we've gone into, come out of, and maybe are sticking around in the COVID world for a little while longer. So that'll be a great conversation with Rob. And then I also have my show Kinescope that I do on late Thursday nights with Gabe Hardman, where we look at the history of live television. And low-hanging fruit. It's interesting. I don't even know generationally how the Honeymooners plays to people under 40. But God, that's I mean, do you
I
like
love
the
the Honeymooners.
Oh, there you go,
yeah.
man. So,
Absolutely love. Yeah, and that's because of my dad.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That was just that was one of my favorite shows growing up. We
punch,
loved it.
Yeah, punch in the gut humor, Jackie Gleason at his best.
Oh
And
yeah.
and it's interesting because we're really focusing on live television, and it was
Mhm.
fun to kind of educate Gabe and some of the others in the group that are usually contributors. And I'm like, no, this is live TV. And they're like, but it's filmed like I Love Lucy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's because they had a specific camera that had
Mhm.
two different lenses going on at the same time. So if you lived on the East Coast, you were watching the Honeymooners live. And then
Mm.
they were filming at the same time, and had three cameras going at the same time. They would edit the film together and send it off to the West Coast. So the West Coast got the film version, but it really was a film print of what they did live. And it just had
Yeah.
a quality to it that is better than your I don't know how much you've ever seen old kinescopes, but they're kind of washed out looking because it's a camera trained to a screen,
Oh, okay.
a TV screen, and that's why they look all washed out rather than the film quality of I Love Lucy, another
Mm.
contemporary show with the Honeymooners, and that one 39 episode season where they splurged and used this double camera system. So
Mm.
it's going to be fun to talk about, and really, it's some of the best live television that was ever made. And
Yeah.
and again, I mean, there's a reason why that stuff lasted in syndication, has lasted for 70 years. I mean, it's insane, but again, it's because it's funny. I mean, it's just like old comics. It's like because they're good, that's why we keep
Yeah.
reading them, and
This is
new generations.
timeless.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. So that's going to be the discussion tomorrow night on
Nice.
Kinescope, and that's going to be at 9:30 Pacific. And so some of you might be in bed, but for those of you who want to join us live and relive your honeymooner memories, so that's the place to do it. So that's what's coming up on Word Balloon Live. A few other cool things. I've been in touch with other creators. It's already been a great month. If you haven't been paying attention, people like Mark Guggenheim and John Ostrander and others
Mm.
have joined us, as well as Nandor has tonight. So I hope you'll check out the whole archive. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. As I always do when I end every show.